has nothing to do with financial services. That's usually how I start this. It's an acronym. And it stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurture, and Knowledge. And I know most of you on the call have already done the quick assessment, so you understand a bit about the 4 different types. And we're going to be talking about all 4 of those types in a bit more detail today. A little bit about me. So I am Jamie Adam Tates. I am the CEO of Keystone Strategy Group, and Bank is a tool that we use within our business to help coach other business owners and business leaders in how to grow their businesses. I spent 13 years in a Fortune 10 company, the largest privately held company in the world, doing strategy work, and I have been in a CEO role and an entrepreneur role for 4 years. I am currently, my partner and I are the market leaders for this bank concept in the Midwest. We are launching the Midwest market and bringing it to people here. And I have expertise in business growth, not just in sales, but also in business growth in terms of health and how to create a sustainable business model. And I do a lot of speaking and coaching with business owners around a multitude of topics on how to get what they want out of their business. This quote is one that has stuck with me since the very beginning of my career, especially as my career in an entrepreneur role. And I'm sure most of you can relate to this. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the best business books that I read early in my career, talks about the ability to sell being the number one skill in business. And we strongly believe that. But what we're trying to do through the concept that we're bringing is help business owners and business leaders redefine how they look at selling. So the word sell or sales is not necessarily a strong connotation when you say that to people. Most of us would not call ourselves salespeople, right? We make up other words for what we do, but it really is sales. We have a product, a service, an idea that we believe in and we know can benefit others. And we are constantly talking to people and selling that. And I also believe that our ability to sell is not just in business, but it's in all relationships in our life. So we sell to our kids, we sell to our spouse, we sell in our community groups, because selling is really your ability to communicate, negotiate, and influence people to what you believe. And that's where we're trying to really redefine what the meaning of sales is. But we know that traditional sales has a negative connotation. And why we know that is based on these numbers. So from Salesforce.com, they talk about these sales numbers, and that 67% of salespeople miss their quotas, which to any business, this could be very detrimental, especially, if it's your business and you're not hitting your goals and your targets that you're setting for yourselves. And partly the reason being is that they're not adequately prepared. So 87% of salespeople, people that are in a sales role, don't feel prepared going into their meetings. And their lack of preparation does not mean they don't know their product or service well enough, because we all know that. It's that they don't know how to adjust and know what the other person needs and what questions they might ask and what information they might need. So they're not feeling completely prepared. They can talk about their product or service, but they don't know how to ebb and flow in the conversation and make sure they're presenting the right information to that person. And because of that, 66% of our customers are turned off by our presentation, by our approach, by the information that we share with them. And so for any business, this could be something that is very detrimental to your business, and is probably why most of us hate the word sales and hate having to sell. Because I think we're looking at it in just a different way. And that's the mindset that we're really trying to shift. But it's no surprise, given these numbers, that all of us in business have been told that sales is a numbers game. Sales, you need more sales, and you just need to go out and find more people, right? More people into your funnel. You've heard all of the terms. In order to get more yeses, you have to get more what? You have to get more no's, right? We've all been trained, and we don't even know where it came from, that you should just keep hustling just a little bit faster, talk to a few more people, go to another event and find 10 more business cards. And that's what's going to help us grow our business. And we believe there's a smarter way, and that's not necessarily the truth. We believe that in order to get more yeses, it would be logical that you just get more yeses. So instead of just trying to get through as many people as we can get through and hoping one of them needs our products or services, What if we slowed down and actually thought about each conversation and deliberately adjusted our language, adjusted how we share information about our business, customized to what that person needs to hear, to ensure that they understand what we do, what service we provide, and what the value of that service is? That's what we're talking about with the system and the training concept that we are bringing to the market. The whole concept is built around understanding why they buy is kind of the tagline. And so the thought is that the sales training industry in the US alone is a $5 billion industry a year, meaning companies are spending $5 billion training their sales staff to be better at the 10-step process on how to close the deal, when what we believe is the only thing that matters is why your customer buys and why they make buying decisions. I can be the best 10-step process salesperson and still not be successful, because if I can't connect and I can't read and understand the buying values and the buying triggers of the person, then the best process in the world doesn't matter. And that's really what we're trying to teach people and to help them understand and incorporate into their business. So back to Bank. Again, Bank is kind of threefold in that it's personality based. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment because it's based in science. So this isn't theoretical. This is something that's actually based and proven in science about how people make buying decisions. So we'll talk about that in a moment. It's also people focused because we believe that all business is a people business. We don't have transactions in our businesses that don't involve other human beings and that don't impact other human beings. And so instead of being process focused, we want to be people focused first. And we believe that's where growth truly comes from. And then it's profit driven. So Bank is completely designed to drive more revenue, to drive more profit in your business, because we believe when we go out and help people like those of you on the call be successful and help your clients and serve, you then have that ability to serve others, right? And to give back. And it's kind of this constant, paying it forward approach. And so that's why Bank was developed, is to help enhance the skill sets of business leaders so they can go out and grow their business. One of my favorite quotes on the wall in my office is from Einstein, where he talks about that any fool can complicate things. And I don't know about the rest of you, but in our world today, it sure does feel like there's a lot of fools complicating a lot of things. So just a sidebar there. But it takes a genius to simplify them, right? So much of what we learn, the 100 books on sales, the 100 books on how to grow your business, the 100 different ways you can follow a 10-step process is just completely, we've overcomplicated it. And so what we do with Bank is we boil it down to the common denominator, which is people, and that connection with the person, and how we can create even a stronger connection to drive the growth of our business or our relationship if it's outside of business. So it crosses boundaries, right? It applies to life in general. And so that's what we're going to talk about, is the simplified system. So a little bit of background on Bank. And in 2013, this concept was developed by an entrepreneur who was in the financial services industry. And she was struggling to understand why the sales process wasn't working for her. Like, she was really good at the process, but she wasn't getting the growth in her business that she wanted. And she started to experiment with personality science. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more depth in a minute. But she created this for herself and her own business and her team, and they got exponential growth. She actually grew about 700% in the first 3 years that she started using this system with her and her staff. And what happens when you grow like that is other people start to pay attention. And in her industry, people started asking questions, including Harvard University. So in 2013, they came to her and said, "You're doing something different. We've heard about this system that you've created kind of behind the scenes. We want you to come in and teach our entrepreneurial students how to do this, because we're sending these entrepreneurs out into the world and they don't necessarily have this skill set. They're really good at what they do, but they don't have the skill set to drive a successful business and sell effectively." And so she went in and was a guest lecturer at Harvard. And then from there, in 2014, she brought it into the University of California, Berkeley. So Berkeley heard about it and said, "We want you to train our entire MBA network." Because again, these people are the ones out in the workforce that are really driving the future. but we feel like this is something that's missing really from our curriculum, right? From a standard business curriculum. So she came in and taught at UC Berkeley. And then in 2016, there was a professor at San Francisco State University who was very high knowledge and started to hear about this system that was being taught at the other universities in California, and actually wanted to prove it wrong, because he believed that the system and the science that we had built was something that was already out there. He just believed it was just another color, right? We've all seen these different assessments. And so he did a full independent study in 2016. And this is really what catapulted the business globally, because people started reading the white paper and saying, wait a minute, there's something different here. And what he proved was that the bank system, the bank assessment, he scientifically validated that it can predict someone's buying behavior in less than 90 seconds. And so for many businesses and many entrepreneurs, this was a game changer for them, because they before were just guessing on what they thought their buyer was. And we now have a science that can allow you to no longer guess, but know and be open with that person about what their buying style is and how you're going to serve them. So it's really changed the dialogue with a lot of these businesses. So I want to walk you through and kind of help you understand very high level about the science. Like, what is this rooted in and how does it work? So the science we're talking about here is personality science. And as I talked about, our acronym just really stands for the 4 different personality types: blueprint, action, nurture, and knowledge. And this entire science and our acronyms are built off of the theory of the 4 temperaments. So if any of you have ever heard of Hippocrates, 2,500 years ago, he was the doctor, he was the father of medicine, but he was a doctor. And in his medical practice, he started to study people. And he started to study how he treated people according to their temperament and how that impacted the healing process and their ability to stay healthy. And what he realized through his studies over many, many, many years is that people, all human beings, the entire human race, fell into one of 4 temperaments. He could divide them into these 4 temperaments, and he could treat them according to their temperament. And he had greater results when he did that. And so this has been studied and validated really for hundreds of years. And there's a ton of information that you can find on this. But what's happened since then is that there's become all of these personality assessments that have been created. And I'm guessing most of you have taken one of these. You know, there's the DISC, Myers-Briggs, Color Code, Insights. I can tell you what animal you are, what vegetable you are. I mean, there's hundreds of these assessments out there. And they're all based in the exact same science. So they all come from that the theory of the 4 temperaments. And what each of these has done is taken that science and really looked at it from a different perspective, right? They've said, you're this color, you're this temperament, and they're looking at different pieces of your personality and how those personalities show up in different situations based in psychology. The difference between all of these assessments and bank is that we are looking at the exact same science, only we're looking at it from the perspective of, if those values exist and that temperament exists, how does it impact your buying decisions? So while none of those other assessments have ever looked at it and had it be about the person sitting across from you and how they make a decision on whether or not to trust you, to do business with you, whatever it might be, they all look at the psychology and say, what does this tell me about me and my temperament? So instead of psychology, we're looking at the science of buying behavior, which is our differentiator in the market right now, is that we're just taking a completely different view of the world. And so science has proven that there's 4 different temperaments. And Tony Robbins is one of the people, right? Sales coach. A lot of sales coaches say that your prospects should determine your presentation, meaning you should alter your approach according to the person sitting across the table from you. The problem is most people get that concept and they have no idea how to actually alter their approach. But because it's been proven that there are 4 different temperaments and you should alter your approach, that would tell us logically that all of us should have 4 different presentations, 4 different proposals, templates, 4 different approaches and elevator speeches to when we meet someone in a networking meeting on what we do. and all of our products and services that we provide, because not everybody hears the same thing. You know, their temperament, their buying values are very, very different. And that's what I'm going to give you a high level overview today so you can start to see that. But the biggest mistake that all of us make in sales or as business owners is that we lead with our primary dominant values and language. It's natural. We don't know the other languages. So when I speak to you, I speak in what I would want to hear, right? I give you information about what I do in the way I want to hear it. But the problem with that is science would prove that all of that information you're presenting, 3/4 of the people aren't actually hearing it in the way you're saying it. Because for them, their temperament and their filtering mechanism is looking at it and hearing it very differently. And they're deciding whether or not what you're saying is actually aligned to their values and something they need or something they want for whatever it is that they're trying to solve. And so 3/4 of the time, we're delivering the wrong script. We're speaking in the wrong language. So they see our lips moving. They might even like us a lot. They're going to sit through the meeting and they're going to hear us. And then when we leave, they're just like, you know, I understand what he does, but I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know how he could help me, because we didn't speak in a language and really portray that in a way that they understand, that resonated with them. And the worst part about all of this, and the part that really caught me, was you are essentially spoon feeding 75% of your leads to your competition, because if they're not buying from you, they're probably buying, in a lot of cases, from someone else who can explain it to them in a way that they understand. And so for most of us as business owners and entrepreneurs, and we're looking at growing our businesses, this is a huge detriment, because we are spending a lot of time going after people and then saying the wrong thing and essentially destroying that lead that could have been a very good lead that we really could have helped. But because we didn't know how to communicate, right, about our product or service in their language, it doesn't happen. Here's a study. I like putting this in here just to help people understand. So the Chally Group is an organization that looks at kind of human interactions and how people interact with each other. And they put this stat out that through their studies, they determined that only 18% of buyers will buy from someone who doesn't match their personality. Meaning, I need your product or service bad enough that I will buy from you, even though I kind of don't like you. I don't feel anything there, but I need the service. So I guess you're the best thing that I've got. But 82% will buy when the personality types are aligned. So what that tells us is not necessarily that I have to become someone I'm not, but I have to make that person feel heard and feel understood in their own language for them to believe that I get them, right? She gets me. That needs to be their response in their head, that she understands the things I'm dealing with and she's communicating to me in a language I can understand. 82% success. So I don't know about you guys, but I only want to be on one side of this equation, which is why we're teaching business owners how to speak these other languages and be able to flip those percentages and really grow their business. Another concept that we teach through our training, both virtual and live, is what we call the sales velocity equation. So this equation, we did not create this equation. You can actually do a lot of research on this. It's salesforce.com created it. You can Google it. There's a ton of information out there. But what we do is we look at that. We look at this from the side of our science and our system that we have. And how could it impact this sales velocity of your business? And there's 4 different factors. So the first one in this equation is the number of sales opportunities that you work. So for most of us, think about this as your funnel, right? This is your leads, your warm leads that you're getting either from current clients, from network events, from marketing that you're doing. How can knowing this and altering many parts of your business process, creating more significant relationships with your current customer base, drive more people into your sales funnel? So we truly believe that it can help you get more prospects naturally and create that flywheel, because when your clients feel served, they're going to refer you to others, right? When they really feel heard and understood, they see the value in what you do, it's only going to increase that funnel and the number of leads that you just naturally get. The other thing that we see a lot of our customers have an impact with is the deal value. So for example, if I'm coming in to work with even a current customer, which we've got some great case studies and stories about people that have had success with this, is someone could be working with me for years. And if I come and really deepen that relationship and make sure I'm not wasting their time with the information I'm presenting to them if it's not what they want to hear, typically they're going to trust me at a deeper level. And oftentimes they're going to ask me if I can also help them in another area, or can you also do this? And your services will expand with that current customer because that trust and that relationship is a lot deeper. And they know that if they give you that additional business or they use you for an additional service, they're going to get that same level of service, and they want that. The next one, of course, right, is the win rate. So on average, Salesforce.com would report that most of us close between 30 and 40% of the really strong leads that come to us. So that's 3 or 4 out of 10. And what I would tell most entrepreneurs and business owners is, what if you could close even 1 more out of 10? That would be a drastic change to your revenue. And so even just learning a bit more about the language and adjusting your approach can have a significant impact. And that's really what we're trying to drive with our business owners. And then the last part of this equation is the length of the sales cycle. And for most businesses and business owners and entrepreneurs, this is not something that they take seriously enough. The length of the sales cycle can be a huge detriment to the growth of your business, because if you can't provide the information that a prospect or a customer needs to make a decision one way or the other, you could end up meeting with them 3, 4, 5 times, which is wasting your time, because they still could ultimately make a decision to not move forward, which we can't guarantee. We're never going to guarantee 100% close rate. It's just not going to happen. But we can guarantee that in the first meeting and the second meeting, we're going to help you know what information you need to provide, because you know their buying values, to get them to make a decision one way or the other in that time frame, which allows you to then move on if it's not the right thing for them, or then engage with them. And so we're really trying to work on helping people shorten that sales cycle. So something for you to think about if you don't measure that today, and I know a lot of businesses that don't, is that is a measurable that you should be looking at and making sure that you're improving on that, because it's definitely a key contributor to growth. So now I want to take you through really high level the 4 different types, and I want to talk through their values and have you just start to understand. We're not going to go super deep today. We have training that takes you super deep in all of this, helps you with sales tips and what to do and not do with each of these types. But all I want you to get out of this part is that you would be foolish to not start thinking about altering your approach based on what your customer's code is and how their buying values play in. So that's what we're going to go through today. So the first one is our blueprint. So our blueprint is really that person that's kind of inside the box. Think of them as someone that's more conservative. That's why it's the color blue, because they like things that are much more structured. And so you can see their values here on the screen. And just to set the stage here, these values that are on the screen right now are buying values. So these aren't like all their values and their entire life and their morals and beliefs. This is just how they buy. And this is what science has proven, is they buy according to these values. Now, the other thing about these values is that they're invisible. So no blueprint is going to sit down with you in a meeting and say, before we get started and before you tell me about what you're doing, I just want you to know that I really value stability and structure and systems and planning. Because they don't necessarily think about their values and how they make buying decisions. They just know whether or not they're comfortable or they're not, or they like the product or they don't. And they don't know why. None of us know why. It's just in us to either have a good feeling at the end or a bad feeling. or we have reservations or we don't. And so these values are invisible. And so we'll get to how you can capture these, but this is not something that someone's just going to tell you. Even if you ask, they're not going to know what those values are. But from a blueprint standpoint, they really want the structure. They want the predictability. So when they say this, they don't take it lightly. They want you to reduce risk for them, which is what you guys do, right? That it's really what you're in the business to do, is to help them reduce risk. But it's so, so important to them that if they even feel the slightest thing that there could still be residual risk, or that there's even risk in doing business with you because your process isn't structured enough, right? It's not just financial risk. It's that maybe you aren't going to take them through a process that's really well, that's tuned and that works really well. They could immediately push back, and you might not even know it in the meeting, but they might push back and say, you know what, there's just a little bit too unknown for me here, and this process doesn't seem predictable enough. I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. So you have to be very clear and have a proven process and bring that documentation with you to meeting with blueprints. Our actions, on the other hand, could not be more different in terms of their buying behavior and their buying values. So the action buying style is much more outside of the box. They don't want to be constrained. They want ideas and things that bring them flexibility and freedom and something that's doing it a little different way than everybody else, right? And how can I get ahead? How can I win? And again, this isn't superficial. They just really value deep inside them. They value those things, and they want products and services that help them get better, win, be more profitable, right? And those are all things that you guys really help them look at. But with the action types, if you bring a super structured, rigid process to what you do, most of them are going to push away and say, it's just too structured. Like, I realize you need to be a little structured, but the approach with them and what makes them really comfortable is completely different than the approach from a blueprint. I mean, you can see just in the first three values, freedom, flexibility, and spontaneity could not be more different than structures and systems and processes. And if you bring the same sales pitch to an action's going to be turned off. They might still like you, but they're just not going to want to engage in your service. The third type is our nurturers. So our nurturers are a very unique buying code and buying value. And what I tell most people is, if your nurturer is low in terms of your code, this is something that you have to work on, probably more than any of the other codes, because nurturers care more about making a difference than they do about making a dollar. And so for them, if they're going to engage in a relationship, a business relationship, a personal relationship, whatever it is with you, they care about the products and services you offer, but they care more about who you are as a person. And do they want to be associated with you? And do they feel like your why and your, morals and beliefs are aligned? Like, are you just there to make a dollar and to get business from them? Or are you there to create a relationship? And so they value relationships and authenticity, personal growth. They also value teamwork. So what we train through our training systems is that nurturers want to know your whole team. So while it may seem annoying that they want to come into the office or that they want to have a phone call with every single member of your team, it's not because they're annoying or trying to delay the process. It's because they want to be part of the team. They want to know everyone that's going to interact with them. They want to know personally about them. They want to go deeper. And for a lot of people who aren't natural nurturers, this feels a little bit weird, because they don't naturally go into that personal bubble with their clients, but nurturers want that. So to be able to speak their language, you have to be able to go to that level. Our last type is our knowledge type. And so these guys and gals are typically the quietest, but yet some of the smartest people in the room. So they aren't going to be like the actions. They aren't going to be the first to speak. They're going to sit back and analyze what you're saying and probably be very almost uncomfortably quiet, where you don't know if you're even if it's working and they're hearing what you're saying, because they're internalizing it. and they're really thinking about what you're saying, and they're going to have a ton of questions. So the sales process with a knowledge type is very different than it is with a nurturer or an action. Because with a knowledge, we teach you in our training that you need to come with data. You need to come with stats and studies and information that will help them make this a logical decision. Because in their head, it can't be emotional. They can't just like you and want to do business with you. It has to be logical, what your process is, what your service is. And once they get to a sense of logic, it becomes a no-brainer for them. But the problem that most of us have with the high knowledge buyers is that they can get stuck in analysis paralysis. So they can get stuck needing more data and not being able to make a decision. And what we've done in our training is help you break through that, because there is a way, a proven way, to help them break that cycle of analysis paralysis based on how you approach them and what information you give them from the very beginning. So you can start to see how different all of these types are. And when I'm talking through these, I'm talking about your dominant style, because we're part of all four. So some of you might be relating to more than one, and that's normal. We are all part of all four. But what's important is knowing the entire code of your customer or your prospect, because their very high code at the beginning is just as important as what's low for them, because you would never want to lead with what's low. Now, here's the only issue is there's 24 different combinations that people could be in varying degrees, which gives you approximately a 4% chance of having the exact same code as the person sitting across from you when you look at the entire code. So for most of us, we have to be able to adjust, and we have to be able to step out of our language and be able to do that. And when we talk about this, the first question that we always get from people is, great, now you've told me that I need to know this, so now what? How do I get it? So you really have a couple of options. You can continue to guess, right? So I've opened your eyes that there are 4 types, and it's proven. So you could leave this webinar today and go out and try to guess what your next prospect or the person in your next meeting is, or you can get it. You can actually crack their code. And that's what we talk to people about. You can ask them. And the way that we do that is a number of things. We've got a couple of tools that we'll talk about. And our most basic tool is what we call our bank value cards. So these are 4 plastic, kind of real tangible cards that our clients and customers carry around with them everywhere. And when they sit down with someone, and usually I do this in person if we're together, they hand them the cards and they say, before we get started, I'd like you to do me a favor. Just take a minute. I want you to look at the information on these cards. And if you'd sort them in the order of the one that's most like you or most important to you, down to the one that's least like you and least important to you. And the reason that I do this with all of my prospects and customers is because it allows me to serve you better, and it's going to save us both some time, because I'm going to present the information you want to hear and that you need to make a decision. And then you stop talking. And the customer looks at those cards, identifies with the values, and usually within 20 seconds, 30 seconds max, it doesn't actually take 90 seconds for 90% of the people, they are able to hand those cards back to you in order. And essentially they're telling you, here's how I want you to speak to me. Here's what's important to me about your product or service. I want to know these things. And they don't know how to articulate that. So the cards actually help them prioritize it for you. But I want to show you what I just did. And again, I didn't put the script in there. But we can send, so anybody who's interested in these cards, we actually send you that script that I just did. And that entire script is scripted according to the 4 types. Because when I sit down with someone, I don't know what they are. I'm trying to code them at that moment. So I go through the script and I ask them to look at the information on the cards, right? And when I say information, immediately the knowledge type likes information. So they're willing to play the game, right? To look at the cards. And then I ask the blueprint to order them in order of the one that's most like you to the one least like you. So I give it a process. There's a process to what we're doing. And then I say, this allows me to serve you better. And the nurturers look up at you and say, no one has ever said they wanted to serve me in the first 30 seconds or 2 minutes that we met. Not a single person that sold me anything has ever said that to me. And they're immediately intrigued. And then I say, I want to save us both some time, which is really important to the action because they're already thinking about the next meeting that they have to go to. And nobody's ever going to say, I don't want you to save me time and present what I want to hear. And so just a really quick story on this, an analogy of a financial advisor that we have that uses these cards and also uses our online system, which I'll talk about in a minute, to use it on all of her even her current clients. And she went out and coded all of her current clients that have been with her for 20 years. These people weren't going anywhere, right? But she went out and said, I'm using this in my business process now, and it's going to make sure all of our meetings and the information I share with you over email is more effective for you. I'm going to tailor my approach so that I make sure that it's valuable for you. And what happened when she did that is her clients, her best clients, and the clients that have been with her came back and said, thank you for asking. Because no one else, none of my other advisors, my CPA, my attorney, right? No one else is asking me. Why doesn't anybody else ask? Because I tell them. There's no manipulation in this. We're asking them to tell us what they want to know so that we can make sure and provide that information. And through our BankPass technology, that's what we call it, it's an online system where you get a unique branded URL for your business that you can send to anyone around the world and digitally crack their code. So you do not have to be in person with them to be able to get their code. And the interesting thing about the digital system is it provides some additional benefits to you in terms of sales. Is when they go into your URL and do this 60-second assessment, they get a report, much like all of you did, that tells them a little bit about themselves. And we do that because people like learning about themselves. They like to read a report that says, yeah, that's exactly me. How did they know that out of a 60-second assessment, right? So we send that to your client. It's kind of a gift to them from you. But even more importantly is we take that information and we send you a sales report behind the scenes that talks about their entire code, what things to say, not say, their buying behaviors, what's going to impact their buying decision, what time to show up for the meeting. I mean, we go into extensive detail with you about, because if that's not your natural code, you aren't going to go there on your own. So we're going to tell you what's important to that person before you even meet with them, so that you can hit the ground running in the very first meeting. And again, back to the sales cycle length, improve the length of your sales cycle. And the best part about collecting all of this information for your clients is it creates this dashboard or this CRM of all of their codes. So you could go out and then you have the information. So when you meet with somebody and it's been 3 months since the last time you talked to them, you can go back in here and say, oh yeah, Bob's in action. I better, we're going to have to be quick. I'm going to get right to the point. I'm not going to provide him all the stats and data because that's not what he wants to hear. And you're going to know with confidence what Bob wants. And even better, your entire team can log into this system. So when Bob calls and he has a problem or a question, anybody who answers the phone knows what Bob is and can serve him so that he knows every touch he has with your business, he just leaves it feeling like they get me. It doesn't just have to be you as the business owner or just people that are in sales. It's your office manager. It's your admin. It's a bookkeeper. It's anybody in your business, because they should all be treating your customer according to how they want to be treated, right? According to those values, to retain them, which is a big piece. And then some of our top customers are taking it a step further. And this is really venturing into new territory from a marketing standpoint. So once you have all of your customers' data captured on how they buy, what they want to hear, their communication styles, then you're able to segment all of your marketing according to their type. So science would prove, and you can see it on the screen here, that the pictures that you include in your newsletters, in your marketing, actually impact whether someone's going to engage with it. The color that you use will draw someone in. Your website should be have parts of all four of these so that they all four get what they need at the level they need it. So it's now branching out into a lot more capabilities in the marketing space. So for that online system that's unique URL for your business, it's a subscription service of $29.95 a month. Now, I want to be clear here because there's a lot of assessments on the market. When you pay $29.95 a month, you can code 10 people or 10,000 people a month, and it doesn't cost you anything more. So you are not paying by assessment, which is what a lot of the other assessments on the market do. You're paying for that URL and your subscription service. So you can code as many people as you want for that cost. So there's no additional costs in there. And then before I go into the solutions, so we've got other virtual training solutions I'm going to quickly walk you through. I want to just make sure and kind of set the stage on at a deeper level what Bank really is becoming. So it started out as a sales tool, but it has really progressed into a communication and relationship building concept because we're all in sales. And we are all influencing people, right? And trying to help people understand and change their mindsets. And in our world today, that's actually needed more than ever. And so we're seeing Bank become this kind of language interpreter where people from every country on the planet, it doesn't matter what religion we are and what our cultural background or our upbringing was, these values are proven that they don't differ from culture to culture. Now, the culture piece is laid on top of it, but the values deep inside someone and how they want to interact are not different. And so we're seeing a big impact in a lot of different industries and sectors, including nonprofit and education, and how we can just teach people to communicate with each other more effectively because we all win when that happens. So I just wanted to make sure I put this in here because yes, it has a sales approach to it. But when we go in and train sales teams on this and we check in with them, a few months down the road, they say, this is working great. My sales numbers are up. Yes, like it's helping me a ton, be prepared. And then they tell us, but it's also helping me be a better parent. And it's helping me be a better spouse, or it saved my marriage. I've had someone tell me that. So it goes far beyond your business because our communication doesn't stop at the door to our business. Right? And our, lack of being able to communicate certainly can impact our personal life. So just want to make sure, we're sharing that the benefits of this go far beyond just growing your business, but that's primarily where we talk to business owners about. So a little bit about the solution here, and I'm going to go kind of quickly through this so that we have time for questions. As we talked about, we have the cards and we have the digital technology where you can crack codes and keep that CRM behind the scenes. We also have virtual training. And in our virtual training, it's built on the top virtual training platform in the world right now. The company is Lightspeed VT, if you want to look them up. But it's full-blown virtual interactive training. And I know Eric's been through much of this training. He can probably explain it to you and how he's seeing it. But it's someone speaking to you. It's someone training you versus you paging through slides and learning the content and someone's talking to you behind the scenes. It's someone that's actually interacting with you. And the beautiful part of our training is, as I say it, we eat our own dog food in our training, is that we customize your training experience according to your code. We are one of the only virtual training platforms on the planet right now that is written in this way because we believe so strongly that people hear and learn and communicate differently, that we actually alter the approach. We ask you questions at the beginning of a training to make sure we're displaying that training in a way that makes the most sense for you and where you're at. The other piece that we really like about the training is it's broken down into 5 to 8 minute modules. So this is not a sit down for 3 hours and just be bombarded with training. This is go do some, then go out and practice it. you do a little bit of this and then go use it in your next meeting and see how it works, and then come back and learn a little bit more. So it's a much more sequential and spaced learning approach, which is where virtual training works beautifully, because we've all gone to those seminars where you go for a day and you learn a lot of really good information. You got a notebook full of stuff, and then you go back into your business and you're like, what was that again? If I don't use it right away, I lose it. And retention rates are at about 25% from what we learn in these live trainings, large seminar environments. But with virtual training, that goes up to about 65% retention. Studies have proven that people retain more information when they use virtual training. As I said, it's all interactive. So it's asking you questions along the way, and it's also testing you. So it's not just giving you a bunch of information and hoping you understood it and you connected the dots. It's actually testing you to see if you're connecting the dots, and you can get your test results and you can retest yourself and make sure that you're learning. And the nice thing about it, and this is for you and your team, is it can track and measure how everyone is doing. Is everyone using the system? So for those of you who have teams of people, you can train your team in this and you can see how they're progressing. You can see how they're testing, and if there's any areas where they're struggling. So a little bit about the 3 different subscriptions real quick. I just want to give you, we have 3 different levels in our virtual training. And then we have an enterprise package, which if you've got more than usually 3 people in your business, you want to look at the enterprise pricing, and we can have a side conversation on that. But the 3 primary virtual training packages that we have is our core subscription is the first one. And this is really meant for entry level. So people that are new to sales, really just want to understand the fundamentals of bank and the different codes and how those codes play out day to day and in meetings, and how they could see that happening. This is 12 total training courses in the system for about 5 hours of training total for the core package. The next package that we have is our Pro. And so this is more for an intermediate, someone who's got experience in sales, but kind of looking to move to the next level. And it includes everything that's in the core subscription. And the other piece that it includes that a lot of our clients are really, really love is what we call speed coding. And speed coding is a whole curriculum that teaches you how to code someone based on websites, based on their LinkedIn profile, based on their social media sites and their Twitter. Our values are at play all over the place. We just don't necessarily realize it, but we definitely communicate and speak in our values. And so we're teaching you to code someone, even if you don't have the opportunity to crack them online or, with the cards. It could be somebody you've never met, but you want to meet, and you want to alter your email according to their code when you never have a chance to crack their code ahead of that email. So this is a very, very impactful course for a lot of our clients. And so the Pro package is 30 courses. 15 plus hours of training, of active training. And again, this is not meant to be something you sit down and spend 15 hours doing. It's something that's meant to be do it, apply it, come back and do some more, apply it. And so that's the way we want people to use it, because that's where the real retention and applicability and the real learning comes from. And then our final package is what we call our Platinum package. And this is our most popular package, sold probably 10 to 1 over any other package that we've got in our system. And the reason for it is it includes everything else that was in all of the other training. And it includes what we call Power Scripting. So Power Scripting is a number of courses that actually walk you through scripting your own scripts for your products and services, creating your website content to speak to all 4 types. Sherry, the person who's in the training, the founder, is actually training you and giving you a formula and a workbook where you're creating your own scripts. So instead of hiring someone else to help you do this, you're able to create that content. And so a lot of our clients know that that's where they ultimately want to get. And so they purchase this package because it gives them everything else and then allows them to move to this more mature state with the scripting and being able to do that themselves. It also includes sales velocity training. So when we talked about that sales velocity formula, it helps you and trains you on how to impact the different factors of that formula. We've got COIN training, so you can see it on the right of the screen. It stands for Center of Influence Networking. So for a lot of us who are trying to get to decision makers in companies, or trying to get to high net worth individuals, right, because of the products and services we offer, this COIN training helps you kind of with a plan and a tactic on how to get to those people, because the decision makers in a company aren't necessarily always the easiest people to get through, because there are typically gatekeepers or other people that you need to get introductions from. And so it teaches you how to really get better at that center of influence networking. So I explain all of those because I want you to understand that this training and the virtual training is not just talk about the values of everybody and it stops there. It goes well beyond that and is something that you could think about as a learning management system for your business and for your teams, right? Where they can use this and really enhance their skills in a lot of different areas. And this platinum course is 50 courses and 40 plus hours. So again, you might not need to take all 50 courses, and that's not what we're saying, but there's so much value in some of these courses that over the course of time, it would make sense for you to go through that. And one thing that I always talk to people about, and I think personally I'm in the same boat as a business owner, is we struggle sometimes with investing in ourselves and investing in our team. And so the concept, and Brian Tracy, I've read him for years, I've listened to him, and this is really the concept that he uses with the most successful people on the planet that he coaches, is if the return on your investment is greater than the cost of the training, you should be doing the training. You should constantly be enhancing your skill set, because if you're standing still, you're going to get passed. And so for you, I want you to think about what the return on investment might mean for one new client a month this year, or even one new client this year, which is like easy, right? When you understand this and apply it. And so what could that mean for your business? There's nowhere to go but up, and it could only enhance your services and your offerings and what you do. So just something that we always want to think about. So here are the costs of the training packages that I just walked through. So again, the core is the introductory, and this is a subscription service. So the training is constantly being enhanced. There's always new trainings being added to the system. So it's a subscription service annually. So the core, the introductory training is $497. The pro is $997, and the platinum, which was the 50 hours or 40 hours and 50 courses, is $1997. And then you see here this $29.95 a month. When you buy a training package, you also lump together that BankPass digital cracking technology, because we believe that if you're cracking codes and you need to be able to do the training. And if you're doing the training, then you need to know the codes of your customers. So we pair those two together in terms of the packages that you buy. So we can provide, if anybody wants to have conversations, we've got our contact information here at the end. We can provide you much more detail on the training, the actual courses, and what the courses are about for each of these packages if you're interested. And then the other thing that we talk about, because we are opening up the Midwest market and we're looking to expand and bring this to more people, is we do have opportunities to be an affiliate to our business, meaning refer people. So if you're using this with your businesses and you have customers that are like, what is this? I want to train my sales staff on this because this is an interesting concept. We have a program, right, for another revenue stream for you to be able to do that. And then we're also looking for people who want to be trainers, who want to do these talks, right, and do these webinars, come in and do live training for organizations on these concepts. So if there's anybody in your network that you think would be really interested in that, we're always looking to be introduced to those type of people. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, the presentation part. I'm going to stop talking and we're going to open it up for questions. On the screen right now, all of my contact information is here. That's my direct cell number and my email address, as well as our website, so that you can see events that are coming up. And we would love to, out of this, have, a one-on-one conversation, a 30-minute strategy call with you to figure out how this could really benefit and incorporate into your business. And we'll go from there. So Erica,